Welcome to Two Doulas and a Midwife. We're here with Sharon Marseille and Danielle Kavanagh, and I'm Lisa Houghton. We're going to go into that birth day, your labor day, what to expect, what to do when you get to the hospital, the birth center, or whether the midwife's coming to your home. What is going to happen? How are you going to feel? What is the midwife going to do? And we're going to dive right into that with Sharon and really get an understanding of what to expect when you are in active labor and you're ready to welcome your baby. So, welcome, Danielle. Welcome, Sharon. Danielle, if you want to introduce yourself, then we'll jump into Sharon and get started.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh, such an exciting topic. I think this is where a lot of us doulas shine. This is where we like to get our feet wet and roll up our sleeves and pull up our socks and really try and make that labor experience as wonderful as it can possibly be, because it really, really can. And Sharon, we can dive into the sea of the waves of the contractions heating up after we've been in that slow, very early stage of labor, and now the waves are starting to come up to our waist. And so what happens when what's considered active labor?
That's lovely. So, from your description, we have gone through early labor or the latent phase of labor, which is the most confusing part for women because they're in pain, they're in irregular pain, they're having contractions, but there's no pattern to them. And so it's the most difficult because they are not producing endorphins yet. And our whole secret, as three together, is that we encourage mums to produce endorphins. Endorphins are morphines that the body produces either when they're in labor and a good labor and a welcomed labor, or when you are exercising. And it's why exercise is addictive, because you get into endorphins, you get high on exercise, and that's why women can get high on labor. So at the start of labor, when things are erratic, irregular, and painful, women struggle, and that's why so many of them tend to come to hospital too soon. If they were to distract themselves, go for a walk, think about what did previous generations of women do when they were in labor. Your grandmothers would have done the ironing. They would have made great big pots of stew because they know they were going to be man down for a few days and out of circulation, and therefore they're going to have to make sure that the man's got shirts to wear to work, and that all the nappies have been washed, and that people have got something to eat. So she was well distracted. The challenge for the modern woman is that she is not distracted, and that she sits there with a timepiece, usually an app, which makes me crazy, and times things. And so she perceives that these things are getting closer together. Now, if she was going for a picnic or having an adventure, or one of the reasons why second labors, second children are so much quicker than the first is because you are distracted by the toddler. And the more you can be distracted, the more things get on without you microscopically examining them. So that's the first thing that you want to do. And our rule of thumb as midwives and obstetricians, if they are thinking about anything that is normal or natural, will encourage mums to stay at home until contractions are coming every 5 minutes. And so very often, again, we get the call that is describing how I'm having contractions every 5 minutes now. And you ask, how many have you had? I've had two. So we want you to be having contractions every 5 minutes for about an hour. And that's the time that you would get into the bath to ascertain, are these contractions getting stronger in the face of relaxation, or are they spreading out in the face of relaxation and going away? Yes. So while she's lying in the bath, one of his main jobs and most important jobs at that time is to carbo load her, because you cannot climb a mountain on an empty stomach. And my mums, of course, have done a raw diet from 36 weeks. And so their last meal was extremely quickly digested. Now, if this is her second baby, she's likely to go into labor when her first child has just gone to bed and is asleep. Then she knows, nature knows, that you've got maybe 6 hours, 7 hours while the child is in bed to have the baby get home again in time for breakfast in bed with the family. And that is our aim. So she's likely to take off very quickly. But if you have been having irregular, erratic, and they're beginning to get more clear, you're seeing clarity in the picture of the frequency of contractions, then you would want to get into the bath when they are coming every 5 minutes, so that you can either encourage them to settle in, or you can spread them out and you can get back to bed and have a sleep. Your first focus, if you think you're in labor, is try and sleep. Because if you are in labor, it will wake you up. And if you're not, then you didn't waste any time watching things that weren't going to take off anyway. So if you're in the bath, you're carbo loading. And that means that you're having a meal that consists of carbohydrates. It doesn't mean that you're sitting there in the bath with a bowl of naked potatoes that are going to sit in your craw and you can't swallow. Or what people like to have is naked pasta, which is all glued together and there's no sauce on it. So you want to have a meal, like a regular meal, like spag bol or shepherd's pie if you're a meat eater. Or what I recommend is something like brown rice and avocado, feta cheese, red peppers, yellow peppers, cucumber, celery, and some salad dressing or some olive oil. That you can have hot or cold. It's totally delicious, and will give you slow release energy. That's why we want carbohydrates. And if then he and she together have come to the conclusion that this is labor, then, and they want to start packing the car and going off, they are letting the midwife know that they think that they're in labor. She would want to know that the membranes are intact. She would want to know that the fetal movement has been felt, that the baby is fine, because we are looking separately at what are the main things that you would call the midwife for. That's all the drama around what it all means. But today we're just looking at real normal, low risk mums having a normal labor. And so she has come to the conclusion this is the real thing. The midwife will then book her room in the maternity unit or pack her car and come out to the house and let the doula know that we are on our way somewhere exciting. And we will all meet at the institution that we are going to. And the first thing then that we want to check on arrival is the baseline for everything. We want to know that the baby is well and the mum is well, because we have 3 people in labor. One of them is invisible, but is the most important person in the room, because they can't complain. The other one can complain as much as she likes, and we will all love her and cherish her and cheer her on. And the other one will be a little bit gormless, but will be encouraged to shine and to be a hero in his own drama and his own movie that he can talk about later. So we want to know then that her blood pressure is normal, her temperature is normal, there's no sign of infection. We want to know that the membranes are intact, or if the membranes are not intact, i.e. the waters have broken, then we want to know what is the color of the amniotic fluid. And of course, we want to know what is the fetal heart doing and what is the lie of the baby. How is the baby lying in the mother's abdomen? What is the position of the child? How low down in the pelvis is the child? How high up is the child? And what is the cervix doing? So our first thing then is just normal temperature, blood pressure, pulse. And then you want her to pee on a stick so that we can see what is the whole story. Has she eaten? Is she ketotic? Because lots of mothers think they're just going to pull the wool over your eyes and tell you things. Yes, I had carbs in the bath. Yes, I ate. And she had one noodle or one something, a biscuit. And I'm afraid it's all in her pee. So we know things that you can tell me whatever you like, but your body doesn't fit. In this situation, we've checked her blood pressure and her pulse and her temperature, and she's peed on a stick, and her body is telling us that she's absolutely fine. Then we're going to have a feel of her tummy and make sure that the head is in the right place and the bum is in the right place, and that's the baby I'm talking about. And we'd want to know then, is the baby on the right side or the left side, and how close to the middle is the back of the child, the spine of the child, how close to the middle. Because we want the spine to be in the front and not the spine round the back. And if the spine was close, say the spine was in a lateral state, so on her side, on the mother's side, rather than in the front, then we'd do something like rebozo, or we'd give her homeopathics in order to help the child to navigate properly. We're hoping that the contractions then are going to start in the top. They start in the fundus of the uterus, and they radiate down her belly and down the spine of the child. If you look at that picture behind me, and by coming down the spine of the child, they tip the baby's head. So the chin comes on the chest, and the back of the head here sits on the round cervix, and the two shapes match. So the cervix will open like ripples on a pool when you drop a stone into it. So it opens evenly and beautifully, and the pressure is even, and the baby will descend in an even fashion, and it's just delightful. If the baby is not flexed like that, or if the baby is in a posterior position, then we have a square part of the head here, which is deflexed. We've got the top of the head sitting on a round cervix instead of the round shape from the head. And that tends to make membranes rupture prematurely or at the beginning of a labor when we don't want them to. So it sends us all sorts of messages if the waters break and she's not contracting. And that's why we need more time to talk about it. But in this situation, this mum is well, her blood pressure is normal, her temperature is normal, her membranes are intact, and she's having beautiful contractions. And because she had a bath for an hour and she carbo loaded, so she's loaded that engine, she has fueled her body. And so it's already taking off to maybe contracting every 3 minutes by the time she gets to, say, Oxford Road or Genesis. And that's very exciting. And so when we know that she is well and the baby is lying beautifully, we don't have to do anything to it at all, then we check her cervix to see what is the story within. Now, every practitioner has their own protocol and their own way of managing things. I like to only check the cervix once, because if she is in labor, then I'm looking for external signs to take me from the point that I checked her cervix when she came in. I'm expecting her to be 4 or 5 centimeters even when she comes in at that point, because if she has been contracting every 5 minutes for an hour, that would really be an indication that she's already 4 centimeters at that point. And then she's got the journey to her place of residence where she's going to be giving birth. which again will usually use up an hour. So now she's 5 centimeters, and that's what we want. We want her to be able to get into the pool as soon as she wants to, as soon as the water's in it. So yes, I'm hoping that she's 4 or 5 centimeters dilated and that her membranes are intact, and I'm hoping that the head is down on the cervix. And then I'm going to encourage her to walk around, to go for a walk in the garden, to go and find her man and have a good smooch, because that's going to make her release oxytocin. And as Ina May Gaskin would tell us, something with tongues is very good, and earlobes, and, you know, go and neck somewhere. And that will cause her oxytocin to soar and her endorphins to be released by the bucket load, and she will get all dreamy and sleepy. She'll find it hard to keep her eyes open. She's going to be putting up her affirmations in her room so that she claims that space. When she is comfortable in the room and it is her own space, she'll light her candles, she'll put up her affirmations, she'll make herself comfortable in that space. She doesn't need to get her clothes off. There will be no hospital gown being worn. There'll be no naked bottoms stuck out of the back of something. And she can be comfortable in that space. And we can put a sign on the door even that says that this is a laboring woman in here, so enter at your own peril. And we will have somebody guarding the door so that that doesn't happen by accident. Because every time the door opens, we can add on an hour to her labor. So she needs to be able to feel private and secluded and not disturbed at all. This is a process that should not be disturbed. We'll be running around like rabbits trying to get the water in the pool. We'll be listening to that fetal heart every 15 minutes. And that's one of the signs that tells us there is progress, because the fetal heart on the external part of her abdomen is going lower. Every time I listen to it, it's lower, it's lower. It's getting closer to her pubic region, and that tells us the baby is descending. I'm looking to see the shape of her sacrum. I'm looking for her purple line, probably to be discussed at a different episode. I'm listening to the sounds that she's making, and I'm looking to see that she needs to rock and roll and move with the rhythm of her body when she's having a contraction, that she will be breathing like a swimmer. She comes up for air. She's like a ballet dancer, how she is starting to get rosy with oxytocin and endorphins. She may be sweating. Her man is going to be feeding her, or her partner. Let's look at the modern world. Whoever is her partner is going to be making sure that she eats every 2 hours, because her metabolic rate is so fast in labor that she'll burn up that energy and she'll get ketotic. And if she gets ketotic in labor, then her legs are going to get the wobbles and she's going to feel desperate. And we don't want her to feel desperate. We want her to feel glorious. And so she can get into the pool whenever the water is the right temperature. And that's one of the main things that we need to monitor, is that the baby is sitting at her core at this time. And that means that her core temperature is going to be 1 degree higher than what we are perceiving on the outside. And so if she is 36.5, which is a normal temperature for a human, then the baby is sitting at 37.5. And if she's getting into hot water, then the baby is going to be hot. And we don't want the baby to be kept at hot temperatures for any length of time at all, because the pool that we use, she will be completely submerged in it. She could even bring a snorkel if she wants to and go under the water while she's having a contraction, because that puts her into her amniotic sac, where she cannot be reached without permission. She would need to come to the edge of the pool in order to submit to anything that needs to be done to her. So she can be completely private. And to go under the water, for a woman to be under the water while she's having a contraction, her baby's underwater, she's underwater, it's such an incredible communion of the two of them to be working together. So she's invited to be in a forward direction. I've got a floating bean bag that I bring for her so that she can rock and sway and moan and groan as much as she likes, and even throw her head back and howl like a blooming wolf if she wants to, because that is her right in labor, and she can make as much noise as she blooming well wants to. And we don't care about anybody else. So if she's at home, of course, then, you know, she can make as much noise anyway. And then women worry about the noise that they will make because people frighten them with it. First of all, you know, you're frightening the lady next door. Well, sorry for you, lady next door, really. But at the same time, you know, we need to encourage a woman because it's about releasing tension and fear and stress. And so she needs to be moaning and groaning. But at the same time, if she was at home, I was in a block of flats once having a home birth, and we had to put a little sign on the window in the passage to say that we're having a baby in here. We're not having a weird party. We are, in fact, having a baby. And so women worry about the noise they're making, but in actual fact, if you're in a very close proximity to other people and they don't complain when you're having passionate sex, then you're going to be all right. Because if you have your hormones in the right place, those are the sounds that you should be making in labor. And when you're making those sounds with the contraction of a sound that's so deep down, it opens your bottom regions. I would say base chakra, but I don't want to frighten people into thinking, you know, we're all hippies. It opens, it resonates right deep down in your pelvic floor and opens your body. So when you're making sounds like in hospital or a regular clinic, and you're those sounds, that's adrenaline, that's fear. And that's why we don't want to hear that sound, because that's going to be dysfunctional in her body. And we want her to enjoy the function, the power of herself. This is the most powerful time in the life of a woman. And that's why it's not okay for caregivers to say, well, what difference does it make? You know, you want to try that hippie vaginal thing, or I can give you a time and a date and I can cut this child from your body. But this is not a tumor or a disease that needs to be cut from your body unless there is a medical emergency. This is a process which is the most powerful, most wonderful experience that a woman can participate in. And so it should be encouraged for her to birth her baby or to give it a go, have a whatever, try, because she might like it. And of course, there is that challenge that her partner, is going to witness her most powerful moment. And that can be shocking for a lot of men. And they can find that very frightening because they think that she's just a little woman. But when she brings forth this baby from her body, it is a most glorious moment. And, you know, he's going to see her in a completely new light. So the two of them are working together then. She wants to look into his face and hold his hand. And when she gets frightened, because as she gets closer to opening her body to release this baby, she will have a surge of adrenaline. So we call that transition. So normally if she came in at 4 or 5 centimeters and she has been rocking and rolling with her contractions, then our next phase is the purple line, the expanded sacrum, the baby has moved down, the sounds are all different. And she will be telling me that there is a pressure in her bottom. So now when those women that say to you, I think I want to push, they are not ready. What I tell my mums is she will be breathing. Deep breath in. Open your jaw, relax your mouth, breathe out through your mouth, over your tongue. The waves on the beach. She will have her contraction grow. She's concentrating. She gets to the peak of her contraction. And she starts to push like that. And I will say to her, Danielle, are you pushing? And she will say, no, I'm not pushing. That's when she's ready to push. That's when her body is pushing. That is when there is this pineapple that is kind of prickly and jaggy in her bum that needs to be expelled. So it's the most beautiful thing when a woman can push spontaneously because she's ready. Her body is doing it without her knowledge, and that is the perfect time to keep on going. And the most beautiful thing about having her membranes intact then is the baby is safe in an amniotic ocean. And it is that bubble of water that is being manipulated through her body. So we are less likely to have fetal distress if the membranes are still intact, because there is a bubble of water in front of the baby's head, which is protecting the child from being over molded, if you like, from being crushed by the muscular constriction of the vagina. And so she's upright, she's squatting, or she's on her hands and knees, or she's in the pool, or she is wherever she likes. In the shower is very nice. Lots of my mums like to have the shower pummeling on their sacrums, on their backs. So hands and knees in the shower is a very nice place. If you've got a good, strong shower, it's lovely. And then he's in a little corner in front of her, trying to have eyeball to eyeball. And so with this pressure that is building in her bum, she will have a surge of adrenaline, because if she doesn't have adrenaline now, she'll be all dreamy under the influence of her endorphins when I am trying to give her very important counsel. And she will see my lips moving, and she will hear me speaking Cantonese like this, but I am behind her and he is in front of her, and he is her focal point. It encourages her to keep her eyes open, because they are hanging on to each other at that point. He's got his hands on her shoulders, or he's helping her to concentrate as this pressure is growing in her nether regions. And I am behind her. So I will tap her on the shoulder if I need to get her attention. But that surge of adrenaline now is very useful to her, because now she becomes the she lion, like a lioness. She's ready to kill anybody that comes into that room. She's ready to defend her baby if something is going to threaten her child when it is born. She is going to be a scary dragon-like creature. So you don't want to get in front of her now. Save her behind. And now this is when her body is expelling her baby. If she was in that hospital that we all try and avoid, and she's on her back, this is when she has a pelvic thrust, where her pelvis is ejaculating the baby, and staff very often are telling her to keep her bum on the bed. So anybody who has been in that state will know that that is a reflex action of flinging her body forward so that she will get that child round that corner, which is really very exciting. But if she's on her hands and knees, then I am encouraging her to put her hand on her baby's head. As soon as the head starts to open the vulva and we start to see the head, then I'm encouraging her to put her hand on her baby's head so that she is the first person to feel that head. And if she's on her hands and knees then at that time, then she has her right leg bent so that her knee and her foot are in close proximity to her right hand. Then she's in I call it the tripod position. So she's in the strongest position, and her right hand is now free so that she can have on her baby's head. If she is left-handed, I could hear that question coming, she's still got her right hand on the baby's head, because we want the baby to be rotated to the left. We want the child to come round from the left, which is why she has her right leg up and the left side is down. And so as the
Sharon?
head starts, yes.
I'm sorry to do this, but we're going to
No,
have
no,
to. I know. I know.
Are you joking? Really?
I know. Getting this
The
baby
ring of
out,
fire.
and I could talk all night on this. I promise you. But what we're going to do is we've come up to that point, and we're going to carry on with actually the birth of the baby. But also, we're also going to talk on the next session. We're also going to talk about the doula's role in all of this as well.
variety
We're going to bring them all together. But I just want
Lovely.
to thank you so much. You were so poetic in that. I just want to go out and have another baby.
I was just about to say the same thing. I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, I just want to have another baby now.
I can see that in your face, Tanya. I can see you getting all dreamy.
It was so
But imagine
beautifully
if
put.
every woman looked forward to a birth like that. You know, that is
I
every
know.
woman's right to know that this is how
Exactly.
birth is, and we frighten them away from it, and it's terrible.
No, it is
Yeah.
the most exquisite moment in any woman's life. But thank you,
Sure.
thank you, thank you. And we will pick this up again and move forward with that incredible birth. So we're leaving off with her hand on her baby's head, but we're going to come back to
A
that.
lovely picture
Lovely,
over here, if you like.
Many blessings, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye.